What's up, everybody?
My name is Anthony Irvin.
You beat yourself?
Yeah, CB myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Jim Green.
Don't even need a hit of traffic light.
Okay, good.
Welcome to
One set. What's up, everybody? Jim here, checking in on you. Wow. There is so much happening right now. There is always so much happening in the world, but in my world, there's a lot going on, and I'm not going to dive into a lot of what's going on my end. But I'm pretty excited. The new Justin Timberlake album just dropped at midnight, and I only get vinyls of albums that I can just smoothly listen to top to bottom, and maybe this is me growing up in a time where singles were released and, you know, I was like a basic music listener, and I would just be all about like the popular songs that were mainstream, and then the other songs I was just like, these are okay, but they're not as cool as these singles that were released. And I'm really going back to like 20 years ago, like my high school days when I say that, because through my 20s and into my 30s, I've definitely grown to appreciate listening to an album top to bottom, but there's not a lot of them that I'm like, okay, I could drop this vinyl in the record player and let it play, go turn it over, flip to the other vinyl if there's two. The Michael Jackson Thriller album, for instance, that I have. And I think it comes with like going on this roller coaster ride, right? So I I've said to Anthony before, like while choreographing routines and creating a visual presentation for the audience to go on a ride, and I know Anthony as a musician and a song producer, he thrives to be able to do the same thing, so this album was, I kind of looked forward to it, but at the same time, Man of the Woods that Justin Timberlake released in 2018, I didn't super get into. Maybe I just didn't give it a fair chance in its time. I'm also like, I'm a dancer, in case you guys didn't know that. I've been dancing for 30 years now. And so when the Justified album came out, I was like, okay, this is his debut album solo, away from NSYNC. It was a really good first album, don't get me wrong. But then Future Sex Love Sounds, his second album solo, I was like, okay, I can listen to this top to bottom. And in that time, 18 years ago, there were a lot more like tracks that I could dance to. So, bias be said, could gravitate towards them a little bit more. And then he went to Hollywood and was, you know, doing all of that, movies, everything outside of producing music, um, which we're going to get back to in a little bit. Okay. Um, I was up through the night listening to the 2020 Experience Part 1 in 2013 and this was before Spotify was even a thing yet. So on iTunes, it was a week before the album was set to release that you could purchase it, you know. He released it for full stream and you could stream the album all the way through. And I stayed up until after midnight that night and I listened to it all the way through. That one. It really changed my perspective, especially, 2013, I was 25, 26, mid 20s. I was starting to appreciate music a little bit more outside of like the dance stuff and just more so appreciating how he was approaching music production. And I mean, it it reminds me of when Michael broke away from the Jackson 5 and he had a vision. His brain was working on another level, right? Which is why, like, and there are plenty of Michael albums. I'm not gonna really get into all of that today, but he knew how to take you on that roller coaster ride.
Have you ever wanted to start your podcast but didn't know where to start? The One Set Bros are here to talk to you about Zencastr. Zencastr is the ultimate base podcasting solution and now the all-in-one podcasting platform, making podcasting easy. They've sure made it easy for us to be able to record our podcast and our episodes every week for you guys. Once you've set up your account, you're simply one click away from recording a high-quality podcast with studio-quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. My personal favorite feature is their multi-layer backups, which ensure our recordings are always in the highest quality, even during unstable web connections. And if you thought you needed multiple tools and services for your podcast, Zencastr's all-in-one podcasting platform allows you to create your podcast all in one place and distribute to Spotify, Apple, and other major destinations. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code OneSetPod, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences we do with all our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story.
Really jumping from Future Sex Love Sounds to 2020 Part 1. There was a 7-year gap where Justin Timberlake wasn't putting out his own content. Sure, he was featured on a couple of songs here and there. But it didn't keep him relevant, right? Again, get back to that in a minute, okay? I listened to 2020 Part 1 all the way through. And it was the last time before everything I thought it was is the new album that JT released. The last time that I remember, okay, I'm going to sit down and listen to this and just zero in on it, which is important to recognize in this day and age where we're so distracted by all of the things surrounding us, right? Having the time to just deeply listen to music without being on your phone, without, you know, texting or scrolling through social media and reading. Like, so in 2013, 11 years ago now, that wasn't so much a thing. Um, so I was able to listen to that all the way through, and it wasn't as much of a dance album. And when I say dance album, I mean like you could dance to all of the songs, but not in the way that I was used to dancing to Justin Timberlake music, right? So I had to get good with, okay, he's evolving with the time, right? So 2020 part 2 came out, and then there was more dance bop stuff happening there, but it wasn't the same smooth top to bottom listen for me. Okay. That was more so like, okay, I liked this song, this song, this song, this song, this song. Like I, I I would think a lot of us do. We hear an album and we're like, okay, these are my like top 3, top 5. Um, I can't wait to listen to this new Justin Timberlake album top to bottom again. And there are songs, again, I could go back and listen to them alone, but there is a different appreciation for the flow of the album that makes me want to listen to the whole album over again. I mean, Anthony and I, we talk about shows that we're into. Um, Game of Thrones, we obviously did the What If series. Um, Anthony just rewatched Breaking Bad. I actually just started it again, and in 2 seasons in, it's like my almost 10th time watching the show. But anyway, building a show or building an album, building an overall story, right? How do you hook your audience with one track, with one episode? Um, Obviously, there are your like banger, um, pivotal moments in a series. It's like, okay, this episode is where like the big turns happen. And then there's other episodes where it's all story building to help culminate the overall picture, right? I feel like this album does the same thing. Everything I thought it was. I stayed up until it dropped on Spotify at midnight. Um, and I listened to the whole thing. It's an hour and 17 minutes. There's 18 tracks. Okay. So when he did 2020 part 1, I believe there were maybe 12 tracks. No. Future Sex Love Sounds had like 13 tracks, and I think 2020 part 1 had 11, but the tracks were all longer. Okay. So most of the tracks on the newer album are they're in the 3 to 4 minute time range, which is like normal um for his genre, to say the least. Okay. Yes, there's some tracks that are in the 5 minute range. um I don't see any that are floating under 3. Let's see, 4.5, 4.5, 3.5. Okay, 251. The fourth track play is 251. Technicolor is 7 minutes long, so we get a longer one there. Pardon me. 4, 4, 4, 3, 5, 5, almost 6, 316. Hell yeah, Stone Cold Steve Austin, where you at? Almost 4, 3.5, 4.5, 4.5. Okay, so they're closer to like like if we had to average it, they're closer to like the 3 minute and 45 second range. Okay, but I gotta tell you, the dynamic in every song. Okay, so when we talk about our attention span now and the world around us distracting us, this guy is a genius. Okay, Man of the Woods album 2018. I admittedly kind of breezed through and was not feeling it. It wasn't for me. And that's okay. Like I can still be a fan of Justin Timberlake. I can be a fan of anybody that I want to be and say, nah, that album didn't do it for me. Right? This top to bottom listen last night was the best top to bottom that I've listened to up front. And I'm a hard sell on music. Like there's more songs that have to grow on me than there are songs that really like up front. I'm like, oh my God, this is just hitting me right in the right in the feels, right everywhere, everything that I needed to hear. This one did it for me. Okay. Um, Justin Timberlake is 43 years old. Okay. And going from when he was 16 in NSYNC, I mean, come on. We're going back 27 years, right? So we're in 97, 98, which is, that sounds right. He might have been 17. I'm not sure. Um, when I'm thinking I Want You Back, like debuted for like the NSYNC debut album. I think that was 98, 99. Um, so any rate, when you look at his career in the past almost 30 years now, and you look at how he's transcended his career and his life, right? He's not just doing the same thing all the time, you know? And Anthony will tell you, it's tough to evolve with the times and stay relevant and cater to your fans. Me as a choreographer, it's not that much different, right? The dance scene 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, if you work in the art industry, the entertainment industry, you got to move with the times, right? So, doing backup dance gigs for Jade Starling, I I started that in 2008. Um, and I think my last show with her was a year and a half ago, which sounds like a while ago, but um, there were plenty of years in that span where I went, you know, anywhere from 6 months to 2 years without doing shows, depending on her schedule, what she was doing. Um, but as she progressed through time, her music kept changing and adjusting and making it make sense, you know? So, any rate, back to Justin Timberlake here. Um, I was going to do a full blown album review of the album. I didn't think that was fair because I have to dissect every song individually. And I can do that after I give this album another 5 listens through. And each song just listen to on its own and talk about my experience listening to the music listening to each track separately versus just listening to the album all the way through. So obviously my perspective right now, after listening to it 12 hours ago now, um, is on the just top to bottom listen, right? So I'm not going to go through and break down track by track. I will tell you, yes, there are way many more songs that I'm like, I could dance to these. Um, but I could also listen to them and just enjoy the music without feeling like I need to put my shoes on. I need to choreograph a thing. I need a freestyle. Get the dancing out of me. I could just listen to them and casually enjoy it as a listener. I told Anthony, um, when I woke up this morning, I was like, dude, you have to listen to this album. You have to listen to this album. Him not being, I mean, the dude can dance. Not gonna lie, right? Um, he doesn't go out of his way to put his dancing shoes on, but he loves music, right? So, and he loves the art of it. He loves, I mean, he's a musician, he's a music producer, right? So, he's going to appreciate this one when he gets the chance to listen to it through. And I can't wait for him to give me the heads up on it. Fun fact, because I was talking about, the world around us and being stuck on these things. I made it a point to put my phone down and say, I'm just going to listen to this, right? It's after midnight, lights out. What I did do, I pulled up his Super Bowl halftime performance from Super Bowl 52, which, by the way, Eagles won. Eagles beat the Patriots. Just going to throw that in there. And I pulled up his performance just to catch him, visually, but I muted the YouTube uh, video as I was listening through the album. Now, Super Bowl performance was close to 15 minutes. The album is an hour and 15. So obviously, I played the Super Bowl performance back 5 times through the album as I was listening to it. And I got to tell you, it's pretty cool how a lot of the dance movement and choreography just happened to line up with the new music that I was listening to. That might have just been, to be fair, like the third time that I played it through, I was like, all right, this isn't exactly lining up. But the other 4 times, I was just like, this doesn't make sense. How many things that Marty Kudelka is like has been his go-to choreographer for the last 20 years. Okay. I've taken class from him. I want to say a couple dozen times, at least close to. And he is another testament of evolving with the time, but staying true to who he is and finding that balance and making it make sense. Okay. Because I know the way Marty moved 20 years ago isn't the way that Marty moves now. It's better. It's more sophisticated, right? Because I think, um, any artist in a young and up and coming position, you're fighting hard. You're working hard. You're trying to go in and say, this has to be perfect. And I think when we get to that point that we're driven with passion and we get excited, it like overtakes us, and we don't just sit back and think intelligently about like, okay, let's make this make sense. And Marty, over the last 2 decades with the dance choreography, just like Justin over the last 2 decades with the content that he's putting out, he made it make sense. Okay. Future Sex Love Sounds, yeah, I can listen to that top to bottom. I like each song separately. The album came out that album came out 18 years ago, okay? Um Much more of like a dance feel. Granted, there are tracks on there that I'm like, okay, this one is changing the game. Um what goes around comes around. Um that track that was like one of his lengthier tracks on that album. Until the End of Time is the last track on that album. It's a power ballad that I love uh, a lot. Um, when you only get a couple ballads on this one, and when I say ballads, I mean um, I really think there's only one that gives you a ballad feel, like just very smooth listen. Um, when I say smooth listen, I mean not something I would get up and dance to. Okay, but I would play it. Maybe not driving in the car from here to work. Okay, definitely something that I would just throw on, in a mix on a road trip. you know, so I just the dynamic. I know I said it already. The dynamic through the songs keeps your attention in every song, and I think that that's why I made it a point to put the phone down so that I could just appreciate listening. Obviously, like I said, I had the Super Bowl performance up to watch some dancing on mute while I was listening to the album. But I was like, I want to give this a fair listen without distraction. And I got to the end of the last song and I was like, I can't wait to listen to this all over again. And don't remember the last time I felt that way about an album. I mean, yeah, I think the last one would probably be his 2020 Part 1 album. Um, Drake's Take Care album is like, when I say, oh yeah, that's my favorite Drake album, it's it's probably the only album of that time, which I think he released it late 2011, if I'm not mistaken. Um, that one, uh, I could go put that on right now if I didn't want to listen to everything I thought it was 5 more times minimum, right? I will definitely be getting this vinyl, okay? Because um just have to. I mean, I have the 2020 experience vinyl. Um I'm definitely getting this one. I recommend everyone take a listen. Um the dude is just transcending time in a way that is inspiring. I had a rough day yesterday. I'm not gonna lie. Like I was not in the best headspace. And I woke up this morning and I was just like, man, that was just refreshing. So much what I needed. So much for sure. Um, when I get a deeper listen into this, and maybe at some point I'll go through it track by track. Um, I also didn't think that was fair to do a podcast and talk about the album track by track after it just released 12 hours ago. Who wants to listen to a podcast about me breaking down the songs song by song? Like, don't listen to me. Just go listen to the album, right? Take a good listen to it. So maybe after some time when people have digested it, um, we can talk about the tracks in depth a little bit more, right?
Dude, I've been getting this annoying itching feeling under my armpits from the deodorants I've been trying and using, and I can't seem to find something that works for me.
Have you ever tried maybe like a natural deodorant?
Natural deodorant? No. Are you insane?
No, but I am wild.
Oh,
Wild is the UK's #1 natural deodorant company that focuses on performance, sustainability, and style.
Their mission is to clean up the bathrooms by leaving it free of ugly, single use plastic bottles and unnecessary chemicals.
You know why Wild is great? Because it actually works and it's eco friendly and contains over 98.5% natural ingredients.
They have a fully sustainable design with aluminum cases that last for a lifetime, plus biodegradable, recyclable refills. And you know what's cool? They can actually imprint your name on these aluminum cases for a small additional fee.
Wild is super convenient with flexible subscription options or paying as one off purchases. And you can customize your order by choosing your case, color, and various scent combinations. I know I have the ocean mist, the fresh cotton and sea salt, and the orange and neroli flavors, and they all smell super great. And what's best about them is they don't just wear off immediately, and then all of a sudden you smell like BO.
Yeah, I've been rocking the sandalwood and patchouli scent right now. And again, great scent, lasts like throughout the day, that you're pretty much protected throughout the day. And I also was able to try the mint and aloe vera. Big aloe vera fan, right on point, long lasting, and you can look forward to these cases and scents in a limited edition every month.
Go wild today with a special discount of 25% off your first order when you get the code OneSetPod at checkout. Go to wearewild.com and use the code OneSetPod at checkout and enjoy. If you're not a JT fan, definitely give this one a shot. I mean, if you're going to listen to any of his stuff and give him a chance, listen to this one first, because he did go out and say, hey, this album is everything about where I was and where I'm going. And I'm actually nervous to preach the album and say, listen to this one first, because you might go back and listen to his other stuff and say, eh. But if you've been following JT all along, I know one of my good dance buddies, one of my best brothers, is an avid JT fan. I know he is eating this album up. I I I know he is all about this and just so into it, because he got into music production as well. Um, there's no shot that he is dogging this album whatsoever. Give it a listen. We get NSYNC on the album. So cool. I mean, JT did a show in Memphis on Wednesday night, and they were like a surprise, uh, special guest on the show for, I guess maybe they did some NSYNC stuff, or maybe they promoted the new song. Um, New song is Paradise with NSYNC. Um, really cool. Just really good. I think that he and his team have done a better job promoting this album than Man in the Woods. Um, and I gotta say, this was what I was saying earlier. We'll get to this in a second. If you, I feel like he's so underappreciated, but he did take a long hiatus from music production. When he was doing the Hollywood stuff. I mean, he went from 2006 to 2013. When you take a 7-year break like that, and granted, Lady Gaga did that, and we know, if you don't know, maybe you don't, I'm a big Lady Gaga fan, okay? She took a pretty long break. Yeah, I say I'm a pretty big Lady Gaga fan, and then I can't remember which album to which album that she took the long break from. um, but she took a long break, and I think that that's why, when you're out of the game for that long and then you try to jump back in, um, you didn't maintain your relevance, and other people crept into your space and took over, right? I mean, there's not a lot of artists that can take that long of a break and come back and still be as relevant as they were when they were red hot. Tell me, tell me someone, let me know in the comments, email us at onesetpod@gmail.com and let us know, hey, by the way, these people took this long of a break and they came back and their record sales were through the roof. I know it's happened, but not a lot, right? Um, the last time that I gave an attempt to listen to an album all the way through was the most recent Blink 182 album that came out. I had a long drive to go see my cousin perform. And I gotta say, like halfway through the album, I was like, okay, these songs are all kind of sounding similar. It kind of sounds just like more of the same. Um, and while I did appreciate them coming back and them recording, I mean, they were pivotal in the 90s, in the late 90s into the early 2000s. Um, but they took a giant break. I mean, it was like at least 15 years. Anthony could tell you exactly how long because he's a huge Blink fan, right? Um, but I haven't gone back to listen to any of those songs again just because I was like, okay, I got my fix. Sounds great. I think their one big song that they put out, I listened to a few times prior to the album release. I watched the music video and I was like, wow, this hits right in the feels. But they they dove all in on that one song to sell the album. JT released 2 tracks in full before this album. And they're my least favorite on the entire album. If I had to say, okay, are there songs that you don't like? It's the 2 that he released to mainstream, which the Selfish, I was like, okay, this is fun, this is cool. It's a new sound for him. He sounds different, which is really it's great. He's not trying to sound like he used to be. He definitely does throughout the album at times, but it's not like the whole album sounds like him 10, 15 years ago.
When you're talking about hydration, hydration is not only for people training for championships and marathons. We're talking about daily maintenance people. Jim, did you know that 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated?
I believe it, Anth. I mean, honestly, in my line of work, dealing with teaching children and also dancing with adults my age, younger and older, I can almost tell based off of how well people not just perform athletically, but how we carry ourselves and how we communicate back and forth, our facial gestures and just our energy alone. I can tell when somebody's sluggish and they're sleep deprived versus they're just sluggish because they're a dried up sponge because they are dehydrated, right?
Absolutely. And for people like me who are working the 9 to 5, and, for me gigging at night, proper hydration is definitely crucial to maintain function throughout the day and keeping yourself energized. And that's why proper functional hydration is essential. And who's going to give it to you? Liquid IV, because Liquid IV is the number one powered hydration brand in America. Their hydration multiplier is the one product you're missing in your daily routine. I like to use it first thing in the morning. I've been doing a lot of workouts here and there, so I pop it in my water bottle first thing in the morning. Gives me a little boost of energy of what I need. And sometimes during the day when I'm doing that like 2 o'clock rundown, I'll pop a little one. If not in the morning, it gives me a little bit of that energy that I need. With just one stick, you can hydrate real life 2 times faster than water alone, plus get essential vitamins and 3 times the electrolytes as the leading sports drink. And not only that, Liquid IV comes in 12 delicious, refreshing flavors to keep your hydration routine exciting.
Yeah, Anth. I mean, for me personally, like my day to day, I'll wake up and pop a liquid IV just to get my day started and start off with proper hydration. And then I am like required to be physically active between the hours of like 2 or 3 p.m. until 9, 10, 11, sometimes midnight if I'm doing a backup gig. So I'll do another one maybe around noon, 1 p.m., and that'll keep me going throughout the day. And I just feel so much better. I don't even drink coffee on the regular like that because I don't need to pick me up unless if I'm like really just not sleeping much. And then I'm like, all right, get me that. I don't like to rely on caffeine unless I absolutely feel like I need it. Liquid IV does the trick for me. I don't know about you.
Again, one stick with liquid IV and 16 ounces of water hydrates you 2 times faster and more efficient than water alone. It contains 5 essential vitamins with 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drinks, and it's made with quality ingredients, non-GMO, and free of gluten, dairy, and soy.
Liquid IV believes that equitable access to clean and abundant water is the foundation of a healthier world. They partner with leading organizations to fund and foster innovative solutions that help communities protect both their water and their futures. To date, Liquid IV has donated over 39 million servings in 50 plus countries around the world.
Yeah, man. Real people, real flavor, real hydrating. Get 20% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use our code 1SETPOD. That's 1SETPOD and at checkout. That's 20% off anything you order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code 1SETPOD at liquidiv.com.
The album, top to bottom, again, is just, it's a masterpiece. It immediately became my favorite of his, top to bottom. That doesn't mean that I won't go back and listen to his previous stuff. It just means, like I said, he transcended time and he made it make sense. It's going to resonate with people of my generation, at 37 years old, where if you were into his music early in his career, you're going to appreciate. I understand the bias in that. But if you're a fan of music, you got to give this a listen and you got to give it a run through. It's not going to be for everybody. Nothing is for everybody, except for maybe Oxygen, right? But I digress. Anyway, thank you for tuning into this episode. Please follow us on our socials, One Set Pod. Hit us up on Gmail if you want to reach out to us, onesetpod@gmail.com. Subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/onesetpod. Hit up our merch store. We have plenty of merch out there for you. We have another line that we're excited to put out there for you coming up in the next few months. Thank you for tuning in. This has been One Set.